Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters in Travel. This is Whitney. Here with me this week, again, I'm welcoming back Natalia, who is the Regional Director of Sales from TL Portfolio. Natalia, thank you so much for joining me again. I love having you on the podcast.
Likewise, it's been a while, so I'm glad we're
It
back.
has. Yes,
Talk about other things and all the same things.
exactly. So Natalia and I were chatting recently, and I'm hearing it from travel advisors. Natalia's hearing it from travel advisors. There is this still ever-present vision slash slash constant question mark hanging above all of our heads of like, what is a representation company? Why are they important? Who are they? I know they're important, but I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure. Do I really CC you on everything? Is that the most common question you receive?
That is the most common question.
But
That
like,
and why
are
didn't I
you
sleep?
serious? Yeah. I mean, I am still literally last week, I was like, Natalia, are you sure you want me to CC you on everything? Because I'm looking at my own inbox with these threads that are like 86 emails deep. I just sent a testimonial from clients who just got home from New Zealand. And so I always just like to forward that on quickly to the DMC partner. And I was like, hey, as you can see, this email thread is officially 86 emails deep. So we worked really hard on this trip. I would really love for you to see this fabulous feedback that I just received.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it is. Thank you, by the way, for this, because I do think, like we spoke last week, this is something that is seen. It's kind of like that white elephant in the room, and that everybody kind of wonders, but no one, in other words, there, but really ask, and there's been answered. So there is two sets of it. A representation company, in the way that we view ourselves, is basically a liaison between you as an advisor, as a professional advisor, and our clients. For the clients, is in most cases, and this is the second question, why would any hotel or the MC want to be represented by TL? Well, obviously we're fabulous. Of course,
Obviously. Have you seen their
obviously
portfolio?
that's the
It's
main
gigantic
reason.
and growing.
No, but really the reality of it is that most of the time, if not all the times, the intentions of being represented by a representative company is to ensure that you have the right information in front of you, right? So when looking at, let's just say, a hotel, most of the time it's a boutique. These boutique hotels, because they're smaller, they don't have the layers that some of the corporations have, right? And layers with like global sales teams and directors of leisures and directors of sales, etc. So we're lucky, perhaps we have a director of sales in a leisure or a director of sales,
Mhm.
but there's not that many layers. And because
Mhm.
they have that many layers, they don't have the knowledge in the ground in the US and Canada, um,
Right.
for for them to know who are they talking to, what are the expectations of them. For us with TL, because from a representation company, we cover all the Americas. So we have teams in Latin America, that is Argentina, Brazil, obviously Mexico, as well as US and Canada. Clients can be represented across the board. Those markets are very different. They
Oh, yes.
completely different, right? So they behave in a very different manner, and they do business in a very, very
So just to like make this a little bit more like pull
different.
this down to earth a little bit, I'm a boutique hotel in Argentina, and I know all about hospitality.
Mhm,
I know about hotel operations.
mhm.
I know how to recruit staff, high quality staff to work in my hotel. But now, without travelers coming to my hotel, I have nothing, right? Like you can operate a hotel fabulously, but you need to have travelers coming. So where do we find the travelers? Well, there's the consumer route and there's the travel professional route.
Right.
And some hotels go both ways, right? And
Correct.
some hotels only go consumer. We know those. We know those hidden
Yep.
gems that are only available on booking.com and won't pay us commission.
Correct. Correct.
We know
Why?
how they operate. Darn it.
Yeah.
But then there are the boutique hotels that are either knowledgeable about the travel industry and respect their relationship with travel professionals and know that that is the strategy that they want to go toward in bringing travelers to their hotel, and or they are looking for a caliber of clientele, a luxury client that is generally not, I can't say more likely because there's plenty of luxury clients that book direct or on their own, but like a lot of luxury clients are going to come through a travel professional. And so if I'm the owner or the general manager or the head of sales in a small boutique property, I'm sitting in Argentina thinking, I need to get in touch with the people who are in touch with the travelers. Might
Correct.
want to come to Argentina and you might want to stay in my hotel. How
Right.
am I going to get in touch with these travel professionals in Canada, the US, Mexico,
When it's just
around?
me
It's
out of
just
Argentina.
really
Correct.
just I'm one human and
Correct.
I have maybe 30 rooms,
Right.
and ideally I have 30 beds that are full every single night of the year. Like
Mhm.
that's how hotels work.
Yeah, that is indeed how hotels work, and that's partially the equation, right? So it's not the visual of this is that when coming, and this is the things that these are some of the things that we say to our clients when they first, right? What's the difference between that that traveler that booked, let's just say, through the experience of the world, and the
Sure.
same traveler, which we know these travelers happen as well, the same
Yeah.
traveler that also calls Whitney and says, "Oh, can I book that hotel in?" And how is that different for this hotel? So that's
So
when
this
we
is
come
a
in.
question that hotels will ask you. Oh my gosh, this is fascinating. Okay, tell me how this
That's
conversation
right,
goes. How
because and
how
that's
do you
when
describe the difference? Yeah.
and the difference in many ways is repeat business, if not all the ways, right? Because that relationship that the hotel is going to have with you will ensure that there is possible bookings coming from you, from your circle, which in this case is a big circle, as we know, it's a big hive. Uh,
Yes.
no, pun intended, 100%. So that big circle, and today more than any other time, as we know, a good experience will repeat, will echo X amount of times. A bad experience will echo a lot more times.
Mhm.
So ensuring that you do have a relationship with a travel planner and a travel advisor ensures that you have that continuity, throughout the year, in where any time that you're like, okay, I had a wedding and now the wedding is this. I was talking to a supplier. I had a wedding. That wedding is not happening anymore. And now you can pick up the phone and say, Whitney, I remember you talked, just FYI, we have space. Those conversations, surely you can open the faucet for
Yep.
Expedia. That's also an
Yep.
opportunity. But that is kind of like you're kind of waiting for the reaction. The proactive
Yes.
way to look at business is to ensure that you have this relationship with all of you guys.
Oh, so it's the way that you framed it right there is fascinating. So just to like create an analogy with travel advisors receive a lot of inquiries coming through our website, through a form or through an email, and then we can react to them.
Correct.
And also with a lot of travel advisors who are looking to grow their business, to develop a certain kind of type of clientele and repeat
Mhm.
referral business, we talk a lot about proactively reaching out to your clients, maintain a relationship with them, see what they're thinking about next. And so you're having that same proactive, reactive conversation with
On the other
hotels.
side. On the other side. Because in the perfect world, in the way that I've always, you and I have had this conversation in Mongolia, for that international. But in the perfect world, surely you're gonna have a client that says to you, "I want to go 10 days to Greece." You're gonna look at your DMC partners and the hotels that you prefer and why, etc. That's perfectly perfect. That's great. The secondary to that will be you speaking with any of the suppliers that you love and saying, "Huh, I didn't know this hotel existed. This reminds me that my client so and so last year was trying to go here. This is actually a great idea. I don't think they even know about it." The
Yes.
reason why, the reason for me being that I'm here, I was on the hotel side and I was also on the advisor side. The reason why clients or advisors are successful is because you know things that they cannot find out on the net, right? So
Yes.
if you are looking for any of the big brands, the reality is that most clients will find the big brands. That's not the reason
Yeah.
why they're coming to you. They're coming to
Yes.
you because you know which room on those big brands are the rooms they need, which
Hmm.
promotion they don't have access because they only have access to you. And with us, it's more about, you know, about that hotel from that brand that everybody knows. You know that there is this very small, it's only 30 rooms, it's family owned. By the way, it's women owned, you know, for us girls. It's women
Hmm.
owned. So and this is why, and it, you know, it's been in the family for over 100 years, and it's in the Bavarian Alps, and you know, it has incredible history. You know that there is a hotel that has hosted the G7 twice. No. So these are the tokens that you can bring to your client
Yes.
and ensure that
Yes.
you stay in business. And from the other side, from a hotel, a unique hotel, and specifically, I just said one of our hotels, which is Los Elmo, a hotel like that, how do they position themselves, knowing that it's a very small team? Is to ensure that they are presented into the right demographic. That is the advisor that will have business, the
Yep.
consortia that has business with them. And numbers is, I think, the biggest thing about the US is from a market perspective, comparing with any of the other markets, it's the strongest, is it the most volume driven market, and it quite literally, what we were saying earlier, has it all, right? The same advisor will have exactly the same client that will do a trip for $100,000, and the same client now is traveling with his whole family, still $100,000, but now it's a family of 10. So now it's
Yes.
changed altogether. So now you're looking
Yep.
at a different partner. So then
Yep.
again, that's when a representation company comes in and says, okay, so this DMC that we have will work for you, and this is why. And then
Yep.
I will turn around to the DMC and say, this is who Whitney is. This is the
Yep.
type of client that she has. This is the way that she communicates. I I make a big emphasis on the communication because that's basically the key of the success, this whole story, right? That 87 messages, that 87 emails that you were saying just a minute ago. This is not normally how she operates. For this client, I've seen it before. The client goes back and forth 100 times. It's not a her thing, it's a client thing. Just bear with it.
Mm.
That kind of information, if you are in a small hotel in the middle of, you know,
Yep.
Mendoza, the Andes in Argentina, you're like, I don't know who it is. You
Yes.
know, if they are lucky, they perhaps touch upon the big cities, right? So you went to New York and you went to LA, and perhaps you did Chicago, Dallas, any of the big cities. And when you're looking at even within the cities, but a little bit outside of the city, there's no way they will know. Just because you need to be here constantly looking at the market and investing in the market from a time perspective, knowledge, obviously, that allows
Yeah.
you to have a better grasp of who everybody is. Not to mention that you all, like you move, right? You go from one
Well,
agency to another. So there's
yeah.
that. Well,
So I think you've highlighted a couple, like, few key things here is that, like, if I just keep making analogies, because I just want to bring suppliers and advisors closer together with representation companies in the middle. Because for me, I've always said, like, representation companies are like my back pocket secret of, like, when I'm looking for something unique, when I'm looking for something that I know that my clients won't find, I'm like, who's in TL portfolio in this
that's
country?
right.
That's always my first search. That was like the number one thing when I was building the hive, and I was like, representation companies.
One.
So I think you were okay. Where was I going? Oh, when you said that, like, we receive a referral from clients, it's like that warm intro. So, like, I don't know you, but you're connected to somebody else that I know and that I trust. And that's what representation companies kind of do for travel advisors of, like, hey, random hotel in Mendoza, you don't know Whitney, but I know Whitney.
Right.
And so therefore, that small vouch, like, trust her connection, like, that means a lot compared to another person that they might be getting emails or phone calls from that they have no connection to and they've never heard from. And maybe that communication is more difficult. Um, let's go back to the conversations that you have with, let's just stick with the hotel. A hotel comes to you, and let's say maybe they're not quite convinced on hiring a representation company. I'm sure this never
How
happens.
dare they? But okay.
Maybe they'd say, well, I'm the director of sales. Like, we have the budget
Yeah.
and I have the time. I can fly to
Mhm.
Canada. I can fly to the US and meet these travel advisors and develop this business that is going to be coming down to Argentina to fill up our hotel. Why would it be more beneficial to hire TL Portfolio to do something like that for me than for me to just do it myself?
I have two words: consistency and visibility.
Tell me more.
So visibility is the obvious, right? Like there is no way that you will know, just I'm going to pick one consortium. You go to virtual, many of us, 6,000 altogether. And that's just a very small sliver of it. So just from a visibility perspective, you need to be visible in as many markets within the US, as many regions within the US and Canada as possible. One single person is just humanly impossible. Consistency will be the constant of, every so many months, like, hey, wait, how's the podcast? How's the kids? How's travel? How's Italy? Was the food tour great? What did you like? That conversation is not possible when it's just one or two people, just because the market is too massive. And in
Mm-hmm.
reality, and it's just what it is, all of you guys are constantly being bombarded by new information and new hotels, etc. So the only way to stay above the water is to basically keep swimming.
It's true. It like it. I'm like, it's so sad that I have to be like, it's so true because I just went to Duco and there were like three categories of appointments where I'm like, I heard of you, I know you, I see you at every conference, I sell you or I don't
You're
sell you,
great.
like for whatever reason. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm
Like
glad you're here. Yes.
we could just like relax for a minute.
Yeah.
The middle ones are like, oh, this is ringing a bell. I've heard of you, but I don't remember what I know about you.
Right. Right. Right.
But there's something here. Like there's something
There's
in my brain.
something.
Like the
Yeah. Yeah.
synapses are like trying to connect, and then I'm always like, remind me,
Yeah.
and like that's where it is right there. Is that consistency of like seeing you and hearing about you and knowing what you offer and knowing what client is best aligned to you. Like that takes multiple exposures
Multiples. Multiples. Not only
for me to like get it in my brain to like actually get it all the way to client
correct.
proposal and to like have
Correct.
clients being sent your way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And there is also the secondary part of it. And this is the biggest difference, again, for me, that I have done the brand, right? I've represented a full brand. So when you represent one brand, you, in some ways, you cater to one audience, right? So in my
Yes.
case, when I represented St. Regis, it was a very specific audience. It's an
Yes.
audience that perhaps at the time was Starwood driven, so meaning people were
Yep.
going for the points. St.
Yep.
Regis, so very, very high end. So for the client, the advisor that perhaps is building their business or is in the cuff of but not quite there, we really never had a conversation. So you're missing that, right? So the difference with a representation company is that today I come to you and talk to you about Casa de Buco and Mendoza, and because I know who you are and the business that you have, I know that's an interest. And tomorrow when we meet, it's not going to be about that. It'll be about something else. But I will also mention. So then there is always that constant, is what you were saying, right? Having that back in the back pocket. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so what's new there? But also there's the constant reminder. Sometimes the
Yes.
advisors come to us because they want to know Temple VIP,
Mm-hmm.
popular for us at TL, right? And ended up leaving saying, I just didn't know that you had Casa de Buco in Mendoza. So all of a sudden, that one hotel that perhaps originally would have done the sales call for anybody selling South America, you're missing a pocket of advisors that are like, yeah, so I don't have time for South America. I have a lot within Portugal. That's not to
Yes.
say that they actually have clients. Right now, their vision is on something that is
It
pertains to
depends on what day
okay
you
right
talk
now.
to us.
Right.
Yeah.
So the addition of like, just don't forget. So that's when I go with the visibility. So visibility and consistency. And that's just very hard to achieve when you use one or two people. Hence why big corporations have layers and layers of them because you need the constant reminder. Not to
It's
say that the obvious is the other, right? Like there is a specific promotion, there is an opening that before wasn't there, now there is a spam before there wasn't, all that information. How do you repeat that in a non-newsletter option, in a non-email option? Like, it's just, you have to use every single channel that's out there, right? Social media, yes. Newsletters, yes. Perhaps some emails to the advisors that you have worked in the last few months. But really, in reality, every single opportunity that you have to be in front of them, because also it's a relationship driven
Mm-hmm.
market, different than most markets. This
Yeah.
market is purely a relationship, right? And you can
Yeah.
create a relationship with one coffee. It'll have to be at least a latte, so a little bit longer. A
But
coffee
no,
won't
that's
do it.
that's that's so true, that just like we have clients who are referred to us, and you can introduce us to one of your partners that kind of like comes in as a referral. It's also the same for the hotel or DMC that's in your portfolio. That if I was just doing random Google research and I came up across Casa de Uco in Mendoza, I'd be like, huh, looks cool, but I don't know anything about it. So how do I know if I can trust it?
You got or not.
I always kind of have a side eye when I'm like looking at TripAdvisor or Google. I'm like, I mean, it looks cool, but I'm not
Or the
sure. Like,
opposite, Whitney, or the opposite, right? Or the opposite. It takes, as we know, when looking at any of those reviews, it takes sometimes one person to have a not so great experience. And we all have had this, and when you're like, that doesn't even define bad experience. You just had bad
yeah,
weather, and the hotel has nothing to do with it.
right. That happens too. But the minute that I see, oh, Casa de Uco is in TL portfolio, done.
Right. So there
Trust
should be that sense of
established.
comfort, at
Yeah,
least,
because
because
I
there
know your
is.
portfolio, I know you, I know that there is a certain quality standard that, like people aren't just in your portfolio for, just for funsies. Like you have your own process of deciding, and maybe we
Mhm.
could talk about that next, of like who's in your portfolio. So like maybe not, when I say trust acquired, I don't mean that I'm immediately sending my clients there, but immediately it's already like a little tick, like a positive tick of due diligence of like, oh, now I can connect this property in the middle of nowhere that it wasn't connected to anyone in my network 5 minutes ago, but now it's connected to not only a portfolio that I know, but a portfolio that I know and trust. And within 2 seconds, I'm emailing Natalia saying, hey, tell me more about this. This is the client I'm working with. Do you think it's a good fit? And within a millisecond, you will respond. It's actually shocking sometimes. Within a millisecond, you will respond and be like, yes, it's a great fit, or no, it's not. And let me tell you
Correct.
why.
Correct.
And this is so important. I have had so many reps save the day and be like, listen, I don't think it's a good fit. And this is because this is what you should know. And it saved everyone so much like pain and heartache.
Completely. I think it is actually even more important when we say the no over the yes, right? Because,
Yes.
like, being told that that pair of jeans looks good when you and I know that that's not the case. We all been there with
It's
that
not
friend that
doing
tells you everything is
it's
good.
not doing anyone
That's not true.
favors.
And I don't
You
trust anything that comes out of you, right? But we have all had this moment. I know this. but but fully, in reality, the intentions of our existence is not just to connect, but to connect properly. If this
yes.
doesn't work because it's not the right fit, I much rather tell you right here, right now, this is no and this is why not. Because
Yeah.
that will hopefully allow me to get another brownie points on your, like, I trust her because even when it wasn't good, she told me it is beneficial for every party, the hotel or the partner, you and I, to be paired properly. And that in many ways is our job. This is what I was saying earlier when I said I know the business, as in who you guys are for the most part, and I know who our client is. So ensuring that
Yeah.
that's a match
Yes.
is extremely important. And yes,
Yes.
the way that we qualified our clients to be in our portfolio is another set of layers. Tina Alira, which is our founder, takes a long time to actually decide who is going to be in the portfolio. And we go through several stages of checking. And this is internal checks, and of course, with advisors that we know, and I think the biggest, to me, the biggest compliment whenever we have new clients joining our portfolio is when our own clients are recommending potential new clients, because
Cool.
there is nothing better. And I say this out loud
Hmm.
to advisors. Look at it this way. If I have 1 hour with you and I have 10 different products that I have to talk to you, I have X amount of minutes for that hour. So if that one client that's with us chooses to add one more, they know that they're going to have less time, because that's
Sure.
just how
Yeah.
it is. So the
Yeah.
fact that they feel comfortable with that, because it pairs, it does, is the same. It actually is a complement to the portfolio,
Hmm. Hmm.
speaks volumes of, the business that this one client can bring. So to me, that is the
Absolutely.
biggest check mark. And obviously after that
Yes.
is all of you, whenever we go back to you guys and like, have you heard, have you worked, what have you heard, that kind of thing. So there is
Yeah.
different layers that we.
So I'm sure that there's like quality of service and reputation and like that kind of stuff that comes into your due diligence. And
Mhm.
I think I can safely say that all representation companies are looking for a certain quality.
Completely.
Now, the quality metrics that they're looking for might be different. Like there are some representation companies that I know of that are like, I love her for all the 4-star hotels that she has because 4-star
Exactly.
hotels are so hard. And so like it's not that every rep has the same quality checks that they're looking for, but every rep has some sort of like due diligence that is required. But then what are the other like nuanced things that kind of separate one rep from another? And because I generally feel like representation portfolios have like a personality.
We are big in personality.
So tell me, like, from your perspective, because you know all your competitors, and I don't even know if
Yeah.
you really consider them competitors, or maybe you do, I'm not sure.
Mm.
Um, how do you in your mind be like, well, so and so is like this and so is like this? Like, I don't mean that you have to say names. I'm just like, how, when it comes to like vibe and the personalities of one portfolio over another, like, how would you differentiate them? How do
Yeah.
you see them from your side?
So there is a little bit of an edginess when it comes to TL as a whole, uh, from the way that we do business and how we like to represent clients and how we position you. We are very methodical on how we introduce clients into the market. And while it's somewhat of a smaller company, because again, we're not a massive, we don't have a lot of layers. So the positive
Mm-hmm.
to that is that decisions are made really quickly. At the same time, the company that's been in the business for about being 13 years. So nothing new here. And yet we're in the constant search for how we can do it better. When looking at the portfolio itself, I think that there is a component of something different, something that is boutique, something that is luxury, but also has a bit of a spectrum within that luxury sense, meaning they can do over the top ultra lux, but the same client that is doing that is able to do a 4.5 whenever it's
Mm-hmm.
possible. Of course, some easier
Yep.
than others. So there is that little bit of that spectrum, and also the
Mm-hmm.
sense of growth between our clients and us. It very much matches.
Mm-hmm.
They trust where we're putting them and who do we put them in front of, to ensure that matchmaking that I was mentioning earlier
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yep.
So, and then looking at it from your perspective, what we what we try to ensure is that you really, truly, truly, you feel that we are an extension of you as right.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a liaison between both and an advocate whenever I need to step in and like, okay, so let me explain why she's, or let me explain why this is. And while I can tell you these luckily are quote battles that we have to have constantly, the majority of the main reason why that doesn't happen is it's such a clear message entering the portfolio of what are the stakes of
Mm-hmm.
staying in the US and in the Canada as a big market, specifically US. Um, because it's such a massive market that you need to come in understanding what it takes. And obviously, as I said earlier, positioning yourself in the right place to ensure that you're match perfectly, right?
So I think there's two things that are important to understand for advisors. All hotels and DMCs can only have one representation company in one market. But when we see, like on the Hive, for example, you'll see that a hotel or DMC has two representation companies by their name. And what that means is that those representation companies are representing different markets.
Correct. Correct.
So this is interesting because I think that a hotel based in Argentina, they're probably not looking for the US to bring all of their business. They're probably looking for like, yeah, the US might be a big stakeholder, but we also want some business from Mexico, and we also want some business from South America, and we also want some business from Europe. And the way that, so TL is unique in that you do all the Americas.
Yeah,
Most representation companies don't do that. Most don't.
Best.
Most just have one country.
Yeah,
so, but also, it's not just that you're present in all of the Americas, is that you, now I'm projecting, so correct me if I'm wrong. You guys understand when we speak to Canadian agents, this is the approach. When we speak to American agents, this is the approach. When we speak to Brazilian agents, it's a different approach because it's a different client, it's a different culture, it's a different approach.
Correct. But we also have teams there. So we have, I have obviously my colleagues that are in Brazil, my colleagues that are in Mexico, my colleagues that are in Argentina and in Colombia. So we do have a team of sales team basically that's doing exactly the same thing that we're doing here in the US and Canada, but in the respective markets. So the biggest thing, and this is something that I view it in some cases might be perceived as a confusion, but the way that I look at it is pretty. If you're looking at any of these, let's pick a hotel, right? So if you're looking at any hotel and you see that while we on the sales call not talk about them, but you see them on our website, it's like, so how come you didn't talk about X? That is because they might have either their own sales team here in the US, and they require our services in the rest of or vice versa.
So like a DMC might be based in Greece and they have invested in having a salesperson in the US because the US is a really key market.
Correct.
But they are not going to invest in having a salesperson in South America and in Mexico and in Canada. So then that's when they come to you and say, we've got the US and you help us cover the rest of these regions.
Correct. Exactly. And it's more predominant with like bigger brands, of course, that they might have actually a sales team in the US, any of the brands that they normally have a sales team in the US. But even with that, sometimes depending on the type of brand and how big the teams are and the type of hotel, the other thing that happens is that when you have these big, massive umbrellas, is that the smaller hotels in farther destinations are kind of lost on the shuffle of like, we have 42 scene regions. So then all of a sudden you're like one of 42. It's hard to repeat the message in 42 scene regions. So you do need perhaps someone that's more geared to pushing business in a smaller scale, obviously, with a much more dedicated team that is one thing only.
So when you so you have your sales calls and your webinars and all the things that you do with travel advisors. What does your day to day or week to week look like with your communication and correspondence with suppliers?
So great, actually, because one of the things that we take a lot of pride is how connected we are with our clients. And going back to what I said earlier about communication, why most of the time, or actually all the time, yes, keep us. The main reason behind it is that the communication that we have, the daily communication that we have, all kinds of people, of course, and we have at least today alone, I have 5 of them. So I know the day to day, like I know that Sylvia from Tempo VIP was driving for 2 hours and I was on the phone with her. So if you are calling her right now, I know why she's not answering.
Yeah.
So a lot of these conversations that sometimes I have with the advisors allow me to ensure that mind the gap, right? To
Hmm.
shrink that gap between the time that you need something, whatever that answer is, and the client itself. And where the
Hmm.
client is at the time, the client being buyer, right? Where the client is at the time. So say that you've been talking to any of our clients for email 72, and last minute your client picks up the phone. This happened earlier this January. Client picks up the phone, so the actual traveler picks up the phone and says, by the way, can you make sure to add Australian Open to my itinerary? And this is obviously for Australia. The the client's leaving in 4 days. So now there is a panic. It's like, are there any tickets? Do we have availability or not? Because I have been talking to the team, but
Cool,
this
client,
happens to all of us,
cool.
right? This happens to
Yes,
all of us.
yes.
So the poor thing, she sends an email, kind of like, "Oh my god!" And now I have to wait 18 hours because she's in LA, and it's like
Yeah.
1,000 weeks ahead of us, Australia.
1,000 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's peak season because it's January, obviously not the only
Yeah.
one. So there is two things. The first one is I knew the answer because I had been talking to them about the Australian Open. So it was one email and me replying, yes, there is. And I'm going to highlight the email so that, ETG it understands that you have this that needs to be answered right now, right now. And the secondary is the time, right?
Yeah.
So going back to why are we copying all of this? Of course, all your emails are important. Absolutely. In summer or peak season, when you're emailing any of the European hotels or any of the European DMCs, the reality is that you're one of 400 emails that they're receiving a day. So
Yeah.
the only way for me to read that email ensuring, okay, so she's going to get a reply within the next 24 hours. And this is okay because she can get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every so often you're going to go, she needs to pay right now, right now. I need a link right now. If
Yeah.
I'm not copying that email and I don't see that, I can pick up the phone and say, by the way, Whitney just said this is I need this answer today within the next few hours. That's
Yeah.
the only way that we can cross check and ensure again that communication. So going back to what you were saying, our day to day with the clients is we as a team, all of us as a team, have a very strong and very fluent conversation with them on the daily basis. Where at any given point, if it's not me, anybody within the team will have spoken with our clients. So we have a pretty good understanding of what's happening in their market on that day. So it makes
Yeah.
that so much smoother, when it comes down to like the the time response, what's happening, holidays and travel and everything else. Makes it easier.
So when you have a partner like a hotel or DMC that is new to the US market, and there are things that operationally or culturally not quite there yet, of like, well, in order to cater to the US clientele, you really need to deliver on X, Y, and Z
Mhm.
consistently, like these types of things. Is that something that a representation company would like coach and consult on? Or is that something that's like, if you're not there yet, then maybe we pause like the potential partnership and come back to us when you are there? Like, is
So I can only
there is there like a consulting kind of aspect to representation companies or no?
I can only speak for us, and the answer to that is yes. So we do
Okay.
have we have two sets. We have a full consulting side of the business, and Tina
Okay.
is heavily, heavily involved in that. And that is both brand awareness, how to create the brand, what are the stakes to win the market, to enter the market, to stay positive. So that's a whole set of like directions and a process of understanding what it takes
Hmm.
for a client that perhaps has, you know, touch on the market and is still newer in the market when joining our portfolio, there is a period which is, anywhere between 30 days to 90 days, depending, in where it's a
Hmm.
full training process, everything that takes
Interesting.
to be part of it. So by the time
Okay.
that you hear who they
Yeah.
are, we have gone through. And that
Okay.
is anywhere from what a consortium, this could be as simple as what a consortium is. What's the
Yeah.
difference between a consortia, a preferred program,
Uh-huh.
a hotel program, or being part of the hive? Is it
Yes.
all the same? Absolutely
Nope.
not. Do I need one
Yeah.
more than the other? No, you need all of them.
Yep.
How much of it? All of it. All of it. You need as much of
Yes.
all of it that you can. Hence why you need a representation company, because it's just too broad otherwise. And when you're
Yeah.
new into it, this is a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
Each
Yeah.
one of you in the US is very particular because each one of you, more now than ever, agencies, some agencies still have obviously their set of employees. Majority of the agents have independent contractors.
Yeah.
So how is that different? So if are you part of the Departure Lounge? Are you part of but it says here that you're the owner. Well, yes, the owner, but not of that. I'm the owner of this.
I'm the owner of
What is
this.
this? What is this? So there is all that conversation. You're like, okay, yes, and she's fab, by the way, but is not the owner of that. And the owner
Yeah.
of that, in that conversation, that's another set of rules, right? So if you, for anybody that has been in this market for double digits, and surely pre-pandemic, but I'm gonna say the last 10 years, and today is a very different canvas, right?
Hmm.
Agency owners are a key component to ensure that their product, the conversations are passed along to all the IC, etc. But that thought that the agency owner is the only way into it is not at all the correct one. Just because,
Correct.
as they themselves, they will tell you, these are independent contractors. I don't have the rules to tell them you need to come to the office, you need to
Yeah.
learn. That's just not it.
There are agency owners who have employee teams, and there
Correct.
are agency owners who have IC teams, and
Correct.
not a lot of travel advisors don't understand all these nuances, let alone a small hotel in Argentina.
That's it. And that's my point. That's exactly my point. So all those layers are very different, very difficult to comprehend. And even when you've been in it, you're like, hold it. So wait, it does. So now you have a big umbrella that is part of a consortia. And now you have Whitney has 10 people under her, but really they're not under her because they're all ICs, but they are under
Her, technically,
but
but she's under this agency.
they are too. So we go back to the like, but what is this? So it's
That's
so
ridiculous,
layered.
honestly.
It's truly
But
so,
somehow it works.
and it works because
Yeah.
again, that visibility and consistency that I was talking about earlier, you only gain that knowledge out of being in these conversations, out of being in the market, constantly being part of this conversation, where you and I, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, had a
Yeah.
conversation that it's completely different than what it is today because of the growth that you've gone through. So that within itself, and this is, and for us, like we are friends, so it's a different conversation altogether. For someone that comes into the market for, as I said earlier, I'm gonna come and see you once. The expectations that will turn into an actual relationship. That's just not how it works.
Right, right. Well, and also I will say, like, whether it's an email in my inbox or like an invitation to a lunch or a coffee, I am 100% of the time going to say yes to a representation partner and rarely going to say yes to an individual hotel in a destination that maybe I sell sometimes, maybe I don't.
Right.
Just because the ROI on my time and energy is far greater if I can sit down in front of you and you can say, well, what's going on today? And then you can cater that conversation to whichever partner or whichever region of the world
Mhm.
is going to be most helpful. And then next week, we can do that again in a totally different
Completely different.
area of the world because you just have so many different things that you can kind of pull out of your arsenal.
Completely. Exactly. And that's what I was saying earlier, right? So for that one, possible client that joins a portfolio, it's like, oh, well, I saw Whitney 3 months ago. Okay, well, the last time you saw her was for that. I'm seeing her now for Croatia because she has clients going to Croatia. I'm just going to remind her that, by the way, you just opened the spa and now you have a new concert hall that you didn't have before. And so is coming and performing there.
Yep.
That conversation would normally have not happened just because I just saw you about that client. So what are the
Yep.
chances of me calling you again and telling you exactly the same thing?
Yep.
None.
Yep.
So that is an opportunity for us to have a constant communication and for you to be, reminder, because a slight reminder of like, by the way, don't forget that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, just like we say for advisors that like if you're trying to attract people who've never worked with you before, like they need to see you, well, I don't know, is it 7 times or something? So whether it's on social media or a newsletter or here, whatever it is, there needs to be like these multiple exposures. It's the same for us with supplier partners.
100%.
We need multiple exposures to like remember, lock it in, start working it into our proposals, like to be able to talk about it to our clients and to really promote it, then to hopefully to eventually get somewhere, in person if it's a really good fit for our business. It takes multiple exposures.
It's,
And you
it's
guys are
just
doing the work.
it's just that's truly the job, right? That is truly the job. The connecting the pieces is part of it. The consistency of it, I would say, is the biggest portion of the job on both ends, right? The communication on both ends and ensuring that is fluid, and that you have the latest and greatest. But really, truly, truly, in the way that I look at our relationship, and this is how our call was, is if you if any of the advisors remember us as a resource,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of trying to remember, did TL say that they had X? The conversation is, this is what I need help. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And I will say, hopefully, a big portion of the time, I have an answer that is in my portfolio that I can tell you exactly. In some cases, there is someone that we're working to add into our portfolio, and they're fantastic, by the way. We're in the last process, but let me introduce you quickly. What you think? Sometimes it's someone that we used to have. They're equally amazing. They're not with us anymore for X reasons. Either they grew too much, or they need someone that is allocated directly to them, or X reason. If they're amazing, my intentions are to ensure that you can do your job the fastest way possible. You can make money the quickest. So that's where we come in, right? Like what's the reason behind it? Like I'm only trying to link
Yeah.
the parts and ensuring again that mind the gap, right?
Well, this is kind of like a side piece, but like every rep that I've ever engaged with and built a relationship with, like you're all just a wealth of knowledge in general because everyone has had like multiple lives in the travel industry.
Sure.
Like you can't wake up like on day one in the travel industry and be a rep. Like
No,
most
that's too overwhelming.
most yeah, it's like it's something that most people that I've met are doing later in their careers in the travel industry, which
Yeah.
means before that they were working in hotels or working in sales or working for a DMC. And so they just have like just a tremendous amount of knowledge and insight about the industry in general. And so that's also something, I think that's another reason why I really just love representation partners.
Whitney,
It's becoming an
fantastic.
obsession,
Love it.
becoming an obsession.
It's just that
I
it's more,
was,
it's more resources, like I said. So if you view us that way, truly, the idea is to make it easier and faster. How can we
mhm,
assist? And in some cases, I'll even say this, in some cases, even when we talk to some of you and like, oh, I already have a partner for, I love loyalty because I strive for it. I want obviously the same
yeah,
loyalty that you have to your own clients. My only thing is, and I think this was a lesson that all of us learned surely during the pandemic, but even post pandemic, you need at least one or two, and sometimes cases three different
yeah,
partners for the same thing, because
yeah,
you just don't know who your next client is going to be, What that
Yes.
client that you always had now needs something different. It's a budget thing. It's a style way of doing things. So that's again when we can come in and we can.
Yeah, agreed. The first most commonly asked question you get is, should I really CC you on every email? Because that just seems like insane. Second, my guess is the most common question you receive is, do we book through you?
Yes, 100%. Can we move to you?
And the
Yeah, I
answer
mean,
is no.
no, no,
Okay,
because we're
so
not a booking engine, right?
travel
Again,
advisors,
the
travel advisors.
yeah, we're
Think
not a
about
booking.
think about when you go to conferences and you're meeting directors of sales of a hotel property, or you're meeting someone on the sales team from a DMC, right? Like, you go home, and to book that hotel, you don't email that director of sales. You might CC that director of sales, but the booking is going to go through the reservations office.
Correct.
So it's the same with representation partners.
Same thing.
Book it the way you book it direct, you email reservations, you do what you got to do,
Mhm.
and then you CC the rep company because you are an extension of their sales team.
Correct. And because
Okay.
I'm nosy and I want to know what you're doing at all times, constantly,
And you're super nosy.
I'm super nosy. I'm super nosy. No, in reality, not just that is yes, is what I was mentioning earlier, ensuring that your email is highlighted, that the client, meaning the supplier, understands who you are, who your client is, etc. And the last part that I say to this, and I feel like this is the one that I always get the chuckle with. I'm hoping that at some point you're going to need the favor. I'm hoping at some point you're going to pick up the phone and say, Nat, I'm going to Tuscany. I've been wanting to go see Castle Falfi forever. I've sold loads of this, and this, and that. And I saw Castle Falfi like crazy, but I can't get a hold of Alberto. Can you help me with Sarah? And I'm going to go crickets. I don't know what you're talking about.
I just met Alberto.
There you
I
go.
do
And
go.
he's fantastic.
Yep.
So the intentions of it is that that doesn't happen. That I'm like, oh my God, absolutely. And I can pick up the phone. And if someone is traveling, which I will know again because I'm constantly talking to our clients, then I can pick up the phone to the rest of the team. Like, she's fantastic. She's saying you a booking for this and this and this and that. And can you just make sure that she's taken care of? Otherwise, I just don't know what you're talking about. I'm guessing you're being honest, but that's all I have. It's not possible for us to have production reports from every single one of our clients. So I
Yeah.
kind of rely more on you ensuring that I know the business is coming from you to us, that
Yeah.
reverse.
Yeah. I'll be really honest. It's hard for me to remember who to CC for email that I'm sending.
I know. Just pick one person.
I use the Hive for this, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of travel advisors rely on the Hive for this because to remember, I've actually CC'd or emailed the wrong rep about a partner because I've misremembered like which
And
one was
sometimes it
theirs.
changes, Whitney.
It changes, and some are even named similarly.
Yes. Yes, same initials. Yes, absolutely. No, no,
It's like
absolutely.
it's hard.
It's
But I use the
that was,
Hive. Like, I do just a super quick search to like the name of the partner in the supplier directory. It's like boom, TL. Okay, CC Natalia. Like, that's how I try to keep it straight because it's hard.
it's just a lot of it. But go back to what you
Okay.
were saying earlier, right? It's just a lot of information and it's complicated. So
Mm-hmm.
even if it's, again, if we are copying every single email, we can understand what's happening, how you do business, etc. If we're copying in the initial conversations, at least we know that there is coming.
Yeah.
Ideally, we all want to know if in the end did it happen or not. This is
Yeah.
another thing specifically, could be with both DMCs and hotels, but sometimes you have advisors that are newer in the market and they're still trying to figure out how to use a DMC. So we
Yeah.
see them with one of our DMCs and nothing happens, and we see one other, nothing happens. That's when we take, because then
Oh,
I'll pick
yeah.
up the phone and I'll go, hey, wait, I saw that. I thank you for that. And I saw that. Should we talk about how to work with EMCs? And
Yeah.
this just happened to me like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm trying to figure out my clients don't want to talk to another person. Okay, so you're telling the traveler that you're putting them in another people. okay, can I give you just 2 cents and see if this helps you? And
Yeah.
perhaps it's training on how to word it differently because you're that new. And not every agency, let's just call it what it is, not every agency has the power or manpower to do an educational to
Right.
new
Yeah.
advisors coming into the market.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. Not every host agency or organization
No,
is providing like really robust training. I would see, I don't know this, I haven't necessarily heard of this situation where an advisor wanted to put a client in touch with the DMC directly, but I can totally see how that might happen. I think what I've seen a lot is like advisors wanting to learn about a destination. So they'll reach out to the DMC for kind of like an educational kind of thing. And it's like, wait, let's back up. Like they're like in the weeds right now, super busy. Education is generally going to come from a webinar
right.
or that's been recorded or that's coming up soon, or education is going to come from a representation partner. That is the perfect, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm like, hey, I would really love to sell more of X and I see that you have a DMC there, but I've never been there and I haven't sold it a lot. So like, can you
So,
give me like a high level brief of
yes,
this destination to help me
yes,
start talking to clients
that's
about
it.
it? Like that's a great way to reach out to
Yeah,
reps.
yeah, that's it. Because ultimately, what I will do is I always say, like, I'll give you 3 bullet points. This makes sense or not? What's the cost? What are seasonalities? Okay. What are you looking? Who's the client for this destination? If you're going to New Zealand or Australia, is that the same client? Do you combine the destinations? Like, what are we talking? Is there a 4 star in New Zealand? I'll tell you right now, there isn't. So, not to what you and I consider 4 star. It's a much, much lower. So now we are looking at it, not really Holiday Inn, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
then it's a different conversation. So that we have to, is there a thing like, can you go to Italy and spend, $400 a night? Yes, of course. Probably not with an
Of
advisor, but that's possible.
course,
Yes,
anything's possible.
yes.
Yeah.
But in some destination, if you're going to Mongolia, that's not going to work.
No, which is shocking. A lot of people think that like the under the radar, off the beaten path kind of places should be super cheap. And it's
Correct.
actually the inverse. It's actually
Correct.
the inverse. These
Correct.
destinations like the stands in Central Asia and Mongolia and Bhutan,
Bhutan, like all
they're
of those
more
areas,
expensive. They're more
more
expensive.
expensive. And
A
there
lot
is
of clients really
less.
struggle to
Correct.
understand
And there
this.
is
Yeah.
less the variety in this in general, it's just lax and uber lax.
Yeah.
So if you don't know anything of this and you are about to sit down with someone who's had this in their bucket list forever, first of all, kudos to you if this is your first booking because how wonderful. But also you want to have some sort of tools to ensure that it's actually the right customer for that destination. Or do
Yeah.
we need to adjust and try to figure out is there
I
something
think like as travel advisors, we are really, really good at the details and like planning the logistics of the itinerary. But I also say we are armchair psychologists,
yes.
constantly on discovery calls with a husband and wife who clearly
They
want
don't talk
different
to each other.
things. Or and then the teenager who's not in the room but who is, actually the decision maker, it turns
Of
out,
course,
because if
because
they
she saw
want
something
something
on social
different.
media. Yes, of course.
This happened to me recently, and I was like, if her opinion is that strong,
I
she
need
needs to
to
be on
talk
the
to her.
call. Can I
I
call
need to.
Grace? I understand that she's 16, but can I talk to Grace, please? I almost said that to a client. but
That's
then
awesome, no?
there's, but then there's, what was I going to say? We're armchair psychologists, and then we're also like the masters of managing expectations. And Mongolia is a destination that we visited together, and I personally love it. And there are very few people who I can look at my Rolodex and think, like, you're the perfect fit for Mongolia, because what you're imagining is not what you're going to get. And the minute that I meet the client that is looking for that and wants that and understands what they're going to get, you better believe they're going to be to Mongolia as quick as I
Of
can get
course.
them there. But the managing expectations part is such a big part of it. And if we've been, we can do that. But if we haven't been, that's what I come to you for. Of like, you know me, I can describe to you my clients so you can understand who we're working with. You know your partners in the destination, and together we can like figure out
That's
how
it.
to manage those expectations. Because that is such a big part of what we do.
That's exactly it. And how to pair those. It truly, that's like the key for you to have a successful phone call with that client for that teenager that is in the back room
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
not. Really, that's just what it is. So yeah, the intentions are always to ensure that you have the more updated and the easiest. Again, I call it the 3 bullet points. If I can give you three
Hmm.
bullet points, there's 3 bullet points at least that I can give you for every single one of our partners. I need 5 minutes. Do you have 5 minutes? I'll give you that. If that still matches, then we can go deeper into it. But at least
Hmm.
let's start with that so you have something to talk.
Yep. So I want to know how you would answer like advice to advisors when it comes to representation partners. My advice would be sign up for all their newsletters so
Yes,
that you can keep up with their portfolio changes when they're adding partners, when they're, like things are shifting and changing all the time. Always say yes to their invitations
please. And come.
because
And
it's
yes,
going to
but
be
also
baller.
show
Oh,
up.
you can't say yes and don't go. Oh, you're on my
Right.
blacklist if you say yes and don't go. None of that. Say yes and go because by connecting with one person, you could potentially learn about 10 or 12 different partners that are all going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Um, always sign up for the newsletter. Always say yes to their invitations. I think that's what I would tell all advisors,
Yeah.
new,
And
old, everyone.
yeah, for sure that. And also, there is this, I think there is this ideally, obviously, if we can meet in person, obviously. But anytime we can carve 15 minutes, kind of touch
Yeah.
base and see how can I help you? Have you thought about the reverse? Like, how can I, like, if you're doing 10 and you want to do 15, how do you get those next five? What do you need? Like, have you thought about us as a resource for marketing? And
Oh,
this is something that most advisors don't think about. So if you're like, okay, oh my God, it's super busy selling out of Europe, well, you and everybody else, okay, what part of Europe? I'm going to name the usual suspects: Spain, Portugal, Greece, France, Italy. Like those are the usual
yep.
suspects, right? Okay, great. I'm dying to sell Australian and New Zealand. And now that the White Lotus thing is done, we're going to see it, but I don't know anything about it. What if I was to tell you, let me put you in touch with our marketing team? Let me carve something that has your voice. So we'll grab photos, we'll grab videos, we'll put it all together, we'll send it to you, we even type it. And truly, the only thing that you have to do is either tweak it or post it. And that allows you to kind of nudge your client and say, it's oh, season is over. You want to come and see it? Or whatever it is, time to start thinking about New Year's in Sydney. Yes, yes, we are in April, but we're around the corner. It's going to happen. So maybe this will
Yep.
be the time to start thinking about this. Have you thought about skiing in Europe? That in many ways, in all the ways, it's a lot cheaper than skiing in the US. Most
Hmm.
travelers don't even know that. So you're like, oh,
Yep.
I'm trying. I'm like, I can give you that. I can give you this information. So there is so
Yep.
many ways in where we can help you to kind of carve your new client or guide a
Interesting.
client that you have
Uh
to
huh.
basically ensuring that they are positioned properly, that they have more information. It's impossible for going back to what I said about our clients. You're still a team of one,
Yep.
and you are doing the
Yep.
marketing, and you are doing the sales, and you are doing the detailing, and you are doing the training. So
Yep.
within all of that, here we come, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna bombard you with another 10 clients that I have. So my
Yep.
perspective of that is I'm gonna try to not use the word bombarding anymore, first of all. But I'm gonna share with you that information. But also, can I take something from you? Can I help you with anything? Can I put together a quick reel of our properties in Thailand? Because they are amazing, and one is in Chiang Mai, the other one's in Bangkok, and why they are beautiful and unique, and the where they're located is great, and like why is 137 Bangkok a good option? Can I put something together? And the only thing that you have to do is to upload it into your social media or into your website, or perhaps you yourself are creating a
I didn't
newsletter.
know this is something that even I haven't thought about before. So okay, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be thinking about this a little bit. How can I make
Yeah, because
Natalia do
yeah,
some of
like
my
all
marketing?
these newsletters that all of you guys are doing, and
Yeah.
this takes an incredible amount of time.
Does it
And
drive you crazy just like it does me that we're all doing the same thing and like reinventing the wheel and it's just like it's so much work. It's a lot of work.
a
It's a
lot of
lot.
work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Okay.
work to try to, it's a lot of work because you have your own voice as an advisor and your own brand. And there is that, what I said, I have to send my newsletter now. What am I talking now? So that
Yep.
moment of instead, that should be like either something that you have handy information that you're like, I said for the next 3 months, I have these three
Yep.
potential.
Yep.
If in any way I can help any of the advisors to at least some ideas, either
Yep.
a destination or the product with a destination,
Sometimes
I'm
a really
happy
great
starting
photo
from there.
is what we need. Like, like sometimes it's a photo with three bullet points, kind of like
And
you
that's it.
said, like selling points, and like boom, out the
That's it.
door. It's perfect.
That's
I
it.
love it.
That's it.
Natalia, I feel like we could go on for hours and hours and hours. Will
Thank
you promise to come back soon?
Absolutely. It was so great to see you again.
And I hope that we have helped to uncover and, clear the fog a little bit
Always.
more about representation partners and how they should be some of your favorite folks in the industry.
That's it.
Amazing. Thank
That's
you,
it.
Natalia.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you. Bye bye.